Welcome to another episode of DD on the Spot. As always, I'm your host, Ryan Johnson. Before I get to our guests here today, I'd like to remind everyone that if you enjoy this content, to please give a like and subscribe down below. I'd greatly appreciate it. We have Krista on the podcast here. She's coming to us all the way from New Jersey, as it's commonly pronounced by people in the area. But most importantly, she is our current guest, and she's coming here to share a little bit about her health and fitness journey and just to talk a little things about health and fitness. So, Krista, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So why don't you give us a little bit of a backstory on what inspired and what motivated you to get into shape?
So I've always danced my whole life. I've always worked out. Like that was like a thing of mine. But I had stopped probably after college. I graduated. I went home and I was with my boyfriend at the time. And I found out 6 months later that the entire time that we were together, he was dating somebody else. So he had two girlfriends at one time. So when we broke up, I wasn't like one of those girls that was like, oh my God, like poor me. But I like felt bad about myself. So I decided what better way to get revenge than to look hot. So I started going to the gym.
Okay,
And then
that's the first revenge story that we've heard, and it's taken me way too long to hear that. So I was like, okay, finally, we have a revenge body, story. So it's made things interesting now. So yeah, and that's awesome. Yeah.
yes, so it's my revenge body story. But then I just started loving what I looked like after that, and it became more of a thing for myself, my self image, than really getting back at him for what he did. So
Yeah, and that's awesome because just hearing everyone's own individual story is really what inspires me to just keep doing this because everyone has their own journey. So and that's so awesome. But I always love to ask as well. If you're to go to the gym with 100 people, there's 100 different ways as to how those people got into shape. That's one of those things that I think a lot of people struggle with. Is because they think that if this person does this exercise and it works so great for them, it's going to work so great for me then too. But they don't realize everyone's body is built differently. Was that a struggle for you when you were getting started? Like really notching things up to really find out what worked best for your body? Because I always say, like I was saying, like if you were to walk up to someone and say, like, would you train for this body part? It looks amazing. What works best for them 99% of the time is not going to work as good for you.
right. So when I first started, I was just like a cardio bunny. I would just run like 5, 6, 7 miles. And then I was starting following like Instagram groups and stuff like that. And I saw that they were like jacked, but not like in a bad way. And I was like, I want to look like that. I want muscles. I want things to work out. So I actually bought a workout plan from a Gymshark model. Her name was Whitney Simmons. And I bought hers. And I noticed that it wasn't really working for me just because the exercises that it was tailored to, I wasn't used to doing. So I was doing them wrong. I wasn't doing them right. I was using way too weight of lightweight. Wow, way too lightweight. And so I started Googling a lot of things. And I've always been like stronger on the stronger end. So I just really just put together like a workout plan and just tweaked it the best I could. And then a lot of people just started following me and just giving me tips. And then I had one of my friends, James, who's really into fitness. He writes guides, he does nutrition plans. He really got me started. So that was like maybe 2 years ago. He really put me on the track of where I needed to be and what I needed to be eating. Because I was eating like bags of chips, still drinking soda. Like I didn't care what I was eating, but I was running. So I was staying in shape. So
No, I always say it's like being like at the very beginning, you're sort of like a mad scientist where you're trying to concoct like your own potion that works best for you. It's so much trial and error, just like with a lot of things in life where you just got to stick to it. And another big thing is that, like especially with our generation where a lot of people, they just want it today and they want it yesterday, basically. Where they're not willing to put in the work that it takes. And I always like to compare it to, like if you're an alcoholic as opposed to if you're someone trying to lose weight. If you go one day without drinking and you're an alcoholic, that's significant progress. Whereas if you go to the gym for one day and you look in the mirror, nothing's gonna have changed, and you're just gonna be like, oh, okay. Well, what was I doing that for? It's going to take weeks upon weeks or months upon months to start to see really any significant change. But once you see that change, it can just be so inspiring and so addicting too. But it's one of those good addictions that you can get. So just you give it a try. But that also brings me into, you were kind of talking about how you started out as a cardio bunny, and one of the big stereotypes that I love to bust is that it's gotten better the last 5 years with Instagram, but there's still a significant amount of, especially women, and I know there are some guys out there too, but I'd say it's overall it's a lot of women women that still have that fear that if they go into the gym, they do one push up, they touch one weight, they do one curl, they're just going to, Hulk out and they're going to look like Dwayne The Rock Johnson the next day. And like I always say to that, I would buy whatever they're selling then because they have found the secret that, so many people are looking for. And you started out, I not necessarily, I don't know if it was having that fear, but just being a cardio bunny. But how did that evolve for you? And what do you like to say to that now? Because I bet you still hear that all the time, just that fear that a lot of women have where they just don't want to get so bulky.
Yeah, so I still get that a lot. I get a lot of people say, "Oh, I don't want to look like you," and I'm like, "Oh, I'm sorry." Like that's a little insulting.
Yeah.
Or like, "Oh, I don't want abs. I just want a bigger butt." And I'm like, "Well, you let me know how that works for you
Yep.
when you have to work every muscle group, not just one, or else everyone would have." The perfect body that they've always dreamed of. But at first, when I first started working out, I did think that if I picked up weights, I was going to be like super bulky. But when I started picking them up and I started doing like lean workouts and lean muscle groups, I noticed that immediately you trim down and then you start looking, in my opinion, sexier than, just a straight cardboard box. Like when I first started working out, I was just straight flat everywhere. But now I have, like, I can see like my shoulder muscles, everything. So in my opinion, I think I look better than I did when I was a cardio bunny.
Well, absolutely, and I always say it's like, yeah, unless you're gonna like willing to go like under the needle, you're not gonna be able to get just a butt without getting abs or anything like that. Like a la Kim Kardashian. Like I'm not, I'm calling you out, Kim Kardashian, on this podcast. But yeah, and that also leads to. I mean, I always love to tell the story of when I was in college. Getting bigger and stronger. One of my really good friends, she came up to me and said, like, Ryan, I see that you're getting in a lot better shape. I want to go to the gym with you, but I'm just afraid that I'm gonna get too bulky. And then I told her, I said, look, the amount of weight that you carry in your purse when we go out to clubs or when we go out to get something to eat, she weighs more than like 90% of the dumbbells. Now, granted, I don't know if she had a dead body in her purse or whatever she had, but it was an extremely heavy purse. Like I've carried a few women's purses before then, but hers was like at least 30 pounds. And I was like, okay, what's going on in here? But yeah, and that sort of really convinced her. And then she went to the gym and she really just saw that, it's like, what is the worst thing that's going to happen? I also tell a lot of people, it's like, you're going to get healthier. I mean, that's like that. I mean, unless you get hurt, that's basically like the worst thing that's going to happen to you. But it also leads
Right.
into, I mean, the number one thing that I think impacts women so much more than men in a positive way is the confidence boost that it gives you. I mean, because let's face it, there's some guys that can weigh like 400 pounds and they walk in the gym like they own the place, and that's just them being them. But
Right.
there's for women especially that confidence boost. I mean, I've seen it firsthand so many times how it just inspires them to do other things, and that confidence boost is also one of those things that you can take from the gym and adapt it to everything else in your life. What has that experience been like with you? Just taking that overall confidence boost that you get, and how have you been able to adapt that to other aspects of your life?
So like before working out and doing all of this, I had no confidence. I was just like anytime somebody would compliment me, I was like, "Oh, thanks," but like myself, I never felt that way. Like all through high school, I would just cry every morning if I put like a t-shirt on or something. I was just so unhappy. And now, if you've seen my Instagram, all I do is post pictures of me in like underwear or a bathing suit or like a thong, or like I have so much more confidence. I feel great when I walk into the gym. I know that I look good. I know that I've worked hard for it. I wasn't just given it. And I think I deserve to feel good and look good as a result of that.
Oh, absolutely. And just all those stories that we've heard about how people are just able to take that confidence boost. And that's just so inspiring. And again, if that doesn't add fuel to your fire to just keep going and just keep with this lifestyle change, I mean, I don't know if anything would. But now one of my favorite questions to ask, because everyone's genetics are different. So what was one body part when you were getting started that really, really took off, that you didn't really have to train as much? And what was one body part that lagged behind that you had to basically train to overdrive to get it to catch up with everything else? Because I'll give you my example. So I mean, my back is, that's the one thing that always looked like I could ever compete if I ever wanted to decide to compete. For some reason, I think it's because in college, I had all these jobs of, like lifting packages into trucks and doing all that stuff that really developed it. But I'm also 6'3", so my legs are just shot. So like I have to train them like twice a week. They're not it. I mean, and also I was a pitcher in high school, so I had that that pitcher's body where you're lean and lengthy, where you're not like big at all. So yeah, that has been a huge thing for me, is getting my legs up and calves. I mean, I'm one of those people where you're just not genetically blessed with calves, and I always say 95% of calves are genetic. So you see those people in there that have nice calves. I don't have calf envy. I'm not like Johnny Drama from Entourage or anything like that. But it's just like you look at them and you're like, oh my God, they never had to work them a day in their lives. But what were those body parts for you when you were getting started?
So my legs are definitely the biggest part of my body, especially my quads. I do not have to work them at all. Like they are just there. I do work them twice a week just because I like to keep keep them in shape or like cut them down a little. But my stomach is so stubborn. I have this little kangaroo pouch at the bottom, and that is all genetics. That is my mother's fault. I cannot get rid of it. I eat so clean and it's just there. It's just like this little skin pouch and I hate it, but like at the same time, not going to be perfect. I can't get rid of it. So I might as well just work the other body parts around and then, it'll eventually come.
Oh yeah, and then for me too. I mean, it's like I unfortunately like a lot of guys where I mean, with a lot of women, sometimes usually some of that fat can go to like your lower body, but with the guys, you get that beer belly, and that's so. I always say in Minnesota, I always got to put on my 10 to 15 pounds of winter weight because let's face it, when it's negative 20 degrees outside, you don't want to be super lean and walk out there. You're gonna freeze to death. So I am still. I mean, actually, so this weekend is the last weekend before I start to finally slim down again and get the summer body ready. So I'm gonna go out and actually probably have like a milkshake tonight and go out with some friends.
Just a milkshake?
Just well, that's like the Aviance. So like I also have a job that's super physical. So on top of working out, I walk around, constantly at my job. So I go through, like I was even looking at my bill, and I don't even want to say what my weekly credit card bill was like just from going and eating food. And I'll just say it's like 30% of what I make. Yeah, is basically goes to food then at least at my job. So I had a fun talking to with my parents where they're like, okay, you're not going to be able to live outside of this house then if you keep that up. And I was like, well, I'm starting to slim down, so I won't. Hopefully, I won't have to spend. So salad isn't as expensive as hamburgers. So and that's another. Oh well, yeah.
Surprised.
Yeah. Well, that's one thing too. Is that because there's always that myth too or I wouldn't say it's a myth, but people always say it's like, yeah, salad is super cheap. It's like, well, some places it isn't really cheap because I have worked at places that have, I catered for a summer, and just some of that times when we looked at the salad, we're like, I could just go to McDonald's and get it for like half the price.
Oh my God, I know. Yes, you're right. I mean, I usually go to this farmer's market down the street from us. It is a blessing. Like $3, I walk out and I have a cart full of stuff. $10, and I'm literally like carrying bags up the stairs. But if you go to ShopRite or if you go to any of like the normal markets, they're charging you $4.99 for a half a bag of salad. Like it's ridiculous.
We have a legitimate farmers market about 2 miles away from where I live. Like a legitimate, like actual like farmers come in, they bring their stuff, like and they travel all the way up, and is like some of the cheapest thing. I think it's like probably like a third of what you pay for like at a regular store or whatever like that, and it's really really good stuff too. So that's one thing that I really count my blessings for. But I mean, you started this journey, and I always like to say, I mean, how has that been like mentally too, just other than the confidence boost, just the mentality? Because for so many people, like even, I mean, I know you weren't like obese or you weren't like really, really skinny, but like for a lot of people that when they start this, they identify with that past self so much because they've spent the majority of their lives with being that person. So is that ever a difficult struggle for you, just mentally, just realizing the fact of like, hey, I'm bigger and I'm stronger and I'm a completely different person? Was that like uncomfortable for you at all, just to realize that you had changed drastically?
I don't think it was uncomfortable. I think I felt better because I had spent so much of my life feeling like sorry for myself that once I saw the change and how I was feeling about myself when I looked in the mirror every morning, it was better for me. I didn't feel sorry for the person I was. I was just happier that I grew as a person, and I was happier loving myself because like my whole life I've never like at all had any self-love. So now it's completely different. I love who I am. I've accepted like my personality. I've accepted like my quirks. Like this is the person I am now, and I'm not gonna change it. So I mean, for the most part, if somebody doesn't like it, like
Yeah. Well, absolutely, and it's that confidence boost too. Gives you that opportunity, basically, to just say that. Where it's like, if you don't like it, move on. Whereas we've had people in the past that you're willing to like stick to other things like that. I mean, we had a lady that got inspired to leave the Mormon Church when she got into better shape, and I was like, okay, that's a great story. So I was like, yeah, if that isn't inspiring, I don't know what is. But how has your nutrition changed over time? I mean, in the 2 years that you've really got in shape, have you sticked with the same diet, or has it been an ever evolving process? Have you changed it up?
So when I first started, it was like a big change because I was used to eating like chicken parm, pizza, chips. Like my biggest weakness is sour cream and onion chips. If you put those in front of me, it is over. So I really had to sit down and look at myself and look at what I was eating and be like, this is what you wanted to do. These are the things you have to give up. Granted, you can have them like every once in a while, but for me, it was the biggest change was going from eating 3 times a day to eating 6 times a day, really getting those protein shakes in. I'm allergic to whey protein, so I can't have it because of the dairy. So I have to start eating vegan protein powder, which is not that great. Sorry, hate to break it to whoever's vegan, but I do
Mhm.
not like it. But it's just like I wanted it, so I have to work for it. And there are things you're going to give up, and that's the struggle with it. But it's also the payout. So
Well, and people don't realize too, just one of the biggest things that people don't realize that you're gonna more than likely eat more than you had eaten before you started this transformation, just to be able to maintain that muscle or just help yourself grow. Because a lot of people are like, "Oh wow, I never thought that I would eat more. I think that I'd be like eating less." And it's like, no, for and like you said, 6 meals, and a lot of it's got to be timed too, and that can be a tough enough process as it is. And
yeah,
sometimes, let's face it, those protein shakes. I mean, you just basically have to force it down yourself, where you
yeah.
just yeah,
Hmm.
you just basically have to like use a tube and just like kind of like those one of those old gags in those movies where they have like the plunger and they're just like trying to like plunge it down. That's basically kind of what you have to
That's
do.
my protein shakes for the
Yeah,
most.
yeah, and then let's face it, some of the flavors aren't the best, so you got to find those flavors that work best for you. And yeah, if there's any piece of advice that I can give everyone, it's like you have to have something that you can enjoy. Now, luckily, I found one that it tastes just like regular chocolate milk, so like I can chug that whole thing. But I had one before where it tasted kind of like birthday cake. I don't know really how to describe it, but it's like ugh, yeah. And I had to go like 3 months with
Like
it because
manufactured? Is
yeah,
that what you a manufactured
yeah, the
shakes, not
manufactured,
kind of
yeah,
shakes?
yeah.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, or and then the worst is those chunks too. If you're not able to get all the chunks out of it, and then it's like you're just swallowing. You're just
Mhm.
like, oh my god, yeah.
I have to spit it out. I'm such a
Mhm.
texture person. I can't eat jello. I can't eat pudding. I can't eat yogurt. So if like a chunk gets in my mouth, automatically I have to spit it out. It's over. Game
Yeah,
over.
I had a funny experience with that at work because I had a friend who, well, he still works there, and then my boss, first of all, is one of the most intense people I'll ever meet. First of all, he does at least 2 monster drinks before every shift, and then he'll take 2 scoops of pre-workout without even the water or anything like that. And he'll put it inside the monster, and then he'll chug it. And yeah, I've never seen a person more amped in my. And
Yeah,
there's a
I used
reason.
to have a heart attack.
Well, yeah, there's a reason why our production center has been rated the best in the country like the last like 5 years, and that's just because we have bosses that are willing to go the extra mile like that. But yeah, just seeing that, and he had one time where like he forgot to put it in the monster because he was just so amped, so he just tried to do it like just take the shot with the and then he just spit it all out like over everyone, and we're like, yeah, you can't really do that. I was like, you could have asked me. It's like I know about that stuff, but yeah, just it's fun to see other ways that people are able to get that nutrition because we have had like people that go vegan on and just some of the struggles that entails because let's face it, dairy is just such a great thing for protein when it comes to like having your milk or having anything else that just finding those alternatives can be tough. But what was that experience like for you when you started, get a little bit of a following and people started to really recognize that, like you were putting in that hard work? Did that just help motivate you even more to keep it up?
Honestly, yeah, because when I started the fitness Instagram, I felt like I was being held accountable to continuously post videos and progress pictures and things I was eating for people that were following me because they were obviously following me for a reason. They weren't just, clickbait. So they wanted advice. I mean, I still get DMs all the time about things that I'm eating, but I personally cannot track macros. I don't know how. It doesn't make any sense to me. So I've always had somebody reach out and do it for me or like friends. So that's where I struggle. So I really need to like step it up in that aspect. But like workout plans and videos, I like doing it. It's a little awkward at the gym because people are always like, why is that girl videotaping herself? Like,
Who's that
how?
tool over there recording
Yeah.
themselves like videos? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But I mean, I love getting the comments that are like, this workout is awesome, or like, oh, I tried this and it was amazing. I'm so sore. Like, those are the payoffs that I like doing. So,
Have you always been from New Jersey?
yeah.
I just because I just noticed a tinge of that New Jersey accent when you were just listening, and I was like, okay, yeah, because some people like you can tell that they aren't from the area that they're currently in. Because we've had a lot of people that have like moved to Florida or Texas. That when we talked to them, I was like, you don't sound like you're from Texas. But with you, yeah, I caught it on the last bit when you were just talking. I was like, yeah, that's a New Jersey. That's New Jersey, and I know I have one of the biggest Midwestern accents of all time, so I get that all the time as well. But one of the questions that is just so fascinating to me as well is how were your friends and family's reaction to you getting in shape and really adapting this lifestyle? Was it positive or was it sometimes where they're just like, oh my god, here comes Krista again, she's gonna force us to eat all this healthy crap or stuff like that? What has that experience been like?
So my mom is not a supporter at all. She gets so mad when I come home and I'm like, oh, I can't have that. And she's like, what do you mean you can't have that? You go to the gym. That's the point, isn't
Yeah.
it? And I'm like, no, that's not the point. My brother has always been on the sports side too. So when I started doing it, he kind of like got on the bandwagon, got off, got back on. But he's always been supportive. My dad thought it was great. I used to go home and tell my dad how much I could leg press or how much I was squatting because like he was always so excited. Some of my friends are supportive.
Mhm.
Some of my friends are like, shut No one cares about your food. No one cares about your chicken. Congrats, you ate broccoli today. And then my boyfriend is just like super supportive. He's always been there for me. He goes to the gym with me. He videotapes all my workouts. We meal prep together. So like if I fall off, he's usually getting me back on. Or if he falls off, I'm always like, hey, gotta get back on it. So
we got to give a shout out here to all the boyfriends of the girls that we've had on, because they are the ones that take usually the Instagram photos and the videos. Without them, these accounts wouldn't be alive. So everyone just make sure if you see a boyfriend walking around, give them a shout out, just because, you know, they are the unsung heroes of a lot of these Instagram accounts. So yeah. And that also leads me into, I mean, just having that support system is just so important as well, because I mean, I tried this one, to be completely honest, I tried this when I was, you know, all by myself, basically. I didn't have anyone to support me with, really. I was just at college. I mean, I had friends at college, but none of them really wanted to get serious. So then that was a struggle just enough as it is. So anyone out there, I mean, just having that support system can be such a great thing to have, because it can really, really help you out. But now, you mentioned it before, like some friends are kind of, you know, for it, and some friends are just like, you know, shut up. But how has your time management been affected by this? Because one of the things that I think a lot of people don't realize is that you aren't going to really want to go out as much as you normally had before. I mean, most of the
yeah.
food that your friends are going to go out and eat is not going to be the healthiest. So you don't want to be that person that just like, oh, I'll have the water and then I'll bring my own like packaged meal, which I tried that once and I just felt so bad for the waitress. I was like, I'll give you a nice tip, but like, it's like, yeah, I just feel bad. And also, I mean, going out and drinking, I mean, obviously, you know, alcohol is not the best thing for you when you're trying to stay in shape. But how have you been able to give away those things without feeling guilty?
So I always have friends from work that are like, hey, do you want to come out? And I'm like, oh, I have to go to the gym. Like, sorry. And they're always like, oh, just skip. And I'm like, no, because if I just skip this time, then I'll just skip this time and that time, and then I won't go back. Or like when I go out, usually I'll just have like a vodka club just because it's the lowest calorie thing for you. But then after like one or two, I'm like, no, no, just water. I'll just have the water. I mean, for the most part, I don't miss like sodas and stuff like that. Juice, I'm over it. I mean, I drank it for so long. I never actually drank water though, up until I started working out. So I never drank water, and that was an adjustment because water to me tastes horrible. I think it has a taste. A lot of people say no, but I taste like the minerals in it. So that was an adjustment to get used to. But I mean, I do give up a lot. There are days where I'm like, I'm too tired. I can't go out. Like, sorry. Or when I do go out, I always get comments if I wear like a tank top or something. Like I went out for dinner with my friends and some guy came over to me and he was like, wow, nice traps. I was like, okay. Is that a big one? Are you hitting on me? Or are you because I have bigger traps than you do? Like,
leave your boyfriend and marry that guy. That's the greatest pickup story of all time. He came up to me and he said, nice traps, and I knew he was the one. Yeah.
like what do you mean? It's so rude. Like, unless you were being serious.
Yeah.
But, like, I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't.
Yeah, I mean, and that's, yeah, okay, again, everyone, yeah, just, you don't walk up to a girl and just say, hey, nice traps, without maybe a little bit of a back, before, you might want to add that, be like, I work out, and I can see that you put in some hard work, so, you know, just great job, but, you know, you just don't walk up and just say, hey, nice traps, because then, yeah, you're gonna make her think, like, what the hell was that guy saying, like, for, like, the rest of the night, but yeah, and that's another thing too that's the question I'll ask later on about, you know, like how you're like what it's like to, you know, walk around and do all that, because that's an interesting topic in and of itself. But yeah, just the commitments that you have to make can be just so hard for you. And I mean, for me, honestly, after a couple of nights in college of some partying where I woke up again and I saw my credit card bill and I was like, okay, I need to stop, you know, drinking, because when it gets to the point where, I mean, the alcohol starts to taste like water because you're a little bit too much into it, where you're just like, yeah, you know, then you wake up and you have like $400 charged to your credit card and you're like, yeah, you know, yeah, it wasn't that great of a choice to go out that night. So yeah, I kind of learned the hard way that, you know, you got to be management, which is again why everyone always asks why the podcast is called DD on the Spot. I am always the designated driver for my friends, and I'm always on the spot. So whenever they give me a call, if they need a ride, or just to go out with them and just be their sober cab that just watches out for them, especially for some of my girlfriends, friends that are girls, not girlfriends. I always have to. That's a whole hassle that I have to get into it too. But just if they need someone to watch out for them, then I'm always on the call, and then they let me know, and then so yeah, that's how I got.
That's amazing. That is the best story I've heard so far. Like, you are like the number one friend. You deserve a trophy.
Believe me, and
listen, they need to buy you a trophy.
And you want to make it even better. I have never charged them $1 for anything for any of the rides.
Oh my gosh, you really are like a modern day hero.
They pay me money and then I leave it in their mailbox.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. You're such a good friend. I'd
Well,
be
well,
like,
let's be honest. Most of the time, they live like half a mile away from me, so it's not like that much of a thing. But yeah, honestly, yeah, and everyone, just honestly, we'll have a friend like me. That's what I'd obviously say. But obviously, just make sure that you're drunk driving. Okay, that's another. No, I'm just kidding. That's a topic that will no, yeah, but yeah, do not do it. But anyway, so yeah, getting back to our main topic of the podcast. So I told you before that one of the questions that I love to ask is, for me, two of the things that I love to ask all the health and fitness guests that I have on the podcast. One of the things is that, when I was going to college, getting in shape and getting bigger and stronger, there were so many positive things that happen. But one of the negative things you're going to get asked to move a lot of people's furniture. You're going to get asked to open a lot of pickle jars.
yes.
I mean, I'm still at home with my parents and I'm moving out in a couple of months, but every time they come home with groceries, I basically have to lift the car into the driveway and carry in the groceries. Has that been a similar experience with you where I know that people just take one look at you and they just say like, oh yeah, she can do it?
Yeah, I mean, my friends were moving. They moved into their house and they were like, "Oh, Krista could come." And I'm like, "I cannot lift a couch. I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I do work out, yes, but I cannot." Or like if at school, because I'm a preschool teacher, if like the glue is stuck, everyone always brings it to me, and I'm like, if it's glued shut, I'm not going to be able to open it. I am not the Hulk. Run it under some hot water and then like loosen it. I can't do that for you. Like, or they were bringing groceries one time and they were like, "Oh, call Krista. She's good." I'm like, I don't want to carry your groceries.
Yeah, I mean, I hear that just like we were talking about. Like last summer, every other week, a friend would text me and be like, "Oh, hey Ryan, you want to come over and help me move?" And I said, "Well, first of all, I don't want to, but I'll do it." Like, I mean, it's like I'm not gonna like skip. I'm not gonna like skip over there and like be all happy. But yeah, and it's also I always say it's a double edged sword for me. I mean, being 6'3", if I had zero muscle at all, people would still be like, "Oh yeah, tall guy can do it." Like reach up over and grab that stuff. So it's one of those things. And also like you were talking about, like at bars, I used to have like drunk girls come up to me and like start feeling my arms without me even asking them, and they'd be like, "Oh my God, Becky, like come check this guy out." Becky, yeah, it's the basic. That's the basic white girl name for up in Minnesota, basically. So yeah, I like to say Becky, but let's be honest, I was vain back then, so I'd pump it up a few times for him, just for
Of
the
course.
entertainment.
Of course.
But and also like getting asked to arm wrestle all the time. But I always tell people it's like if you really want to test strength, let's like have a military press off at like a gym or something like that. Then it's like what is arm wrestling? I mean, it's yeah, that's a whole different tangent that I could get into. But yeah, it's just noticing that too, and has been difficult at you for all. Just I mean, obviously you're not like a physique competitor, but you're
No.
still in really great shape. I mean, when you're walking down the street, do you ever like get any of those nasty comments, or have you ever had to deal with any of that?
Wait, I have such a good story. So I was in Florida with my boyfriend, his brother, his friends. We were walking down the street and I was holding my phone like this,
Hmm.
but I had like a tank top
Yep.
on, and some guy jumps in my face and is like, "Push up competition," and like jumps down. And I honestly thought he just like cursed at me. So
Mhm.
I was like, "What the like what?" And then I like registered what he said, and I was like, "No, I'm good." Like, no, just straight in my
Yep.
face. But I do get negative comments. I mean, there are some girls at the gym that I hear them, they don't think I can hear. I have my headphones off or they're not even on. And they'll just be like, "Who does she think she is? I don't want to look like that. I would never do that." I'm like,
Mhm.
"Okay, well, that's your opinion. That's fine. You stay in your corner. I'll stay in mine. I will support you. You don't have to support me. That's cool."
Well, yeah, and I always just say that. Well, don't worry, you won't, because the people don't realize the hard work and dedication that it takes to look like that. I mean, especially for women. I mean, let's be honest. I know that I'm blessed being a male, where I don't have to, go through a lot of what the women have to go through to look the way that I look. Where a lot of it, I can, eat kind of whatever I want. I'm 24, so I'm at that point where I'm slowly starting to wean out of that, that perfect high school metabolism that a lot of people have.
Right.
Where Oh, I miss it so much. Being able to after football practice, it's going to have like two hamburgers and a milkshake and not gaining a single ounce and actually still like maintaining or maybe even losing weight. And if I could go back just for one day to have that metabolism where I could just walk into a place and just be like, here's $1,000. I'm just gonna eat whatever I want, basically. Just let me loose. But yeah, that's a whole different thing. Now I'm gonna start to cry now. I mean, the cancer in me, I'm a cancer, so don't get me all emotional talking about food, because then that's gonna be a bad thing. But yeah, I mean, totally. Yeah, those negative comments. I always find it funny that as a society now. I mean, as a great thing as a society, it's not acceptable, make fun of fat people now, really, because if you do, you'll pay
Oh,
for it,
God.
and to
Sure.
make fun of skinny people. But for some reason, when it comes to especially women who are in shape, it's not that big of a deal to make fun of them or
No,
like say mean things. Like
right.
you won't get that type of backlash normally for being like, oh, she looks like a man, or oh, that's gross, whatever. It's like I don't get why women who are trying to better themselves all of a sudden have a target on their back that people can then attack without any fear of, repercussions. Whereas opposed to like if you saw a 400-pound guy or a 400-pound woman and you said something about it, people would be like, oh, that's so rude. Like you're being an idiot. You're being an a-hole. Just, yeah,
Right.
it's ridiculous.
I think I call it fit
Hmm.
shaming. And I think I've touched upon it like once or twice, but I definitely want to do a post about it again because it isn't fair for people to shame. And even it's like skinny shaming too. Like I've been told, oh, why don't you go eat a hamburger? Or maybe you should eat, you never eat, you're so skinny. But like, I'm not skinny. I eat more than the average girl. I just eat healthier and smaller portions. That's what people just don't like. They don't want to understand it. They just want to spew out their opinions without thinking of how it hurts someone else. Like I would never walk over to some girl at the gym and be like, "Wow, you should eat a salad." Like that's just like mean. I'm not getting anything out of it. It's not making me any skinnier, me any happier by telling that girl who's overweight, who's clearly trying to like better herself that she needs to eat a salad. So you shouldn't come over to me and tell me that I need to eat a hamburger because you don't look like me. That's not fair. I work hard for it. You don't have the willpower, that's cool, but don't come over to me and be rude or anybody else for that matter.
Well, and that's why I love having, my health and fitness guests come on, because so many times people aren't able to look past the way how they look and just realize that there's a real human being deep down with their own story. And just having guests come on and share their stories and just realize, hey, you know what, they're just an average person just like me. I mean, like you said before, they may have a hell of a lot more of a willpower and determination than, I have. But, yeah, they just have the same similar stories. Now, I didn't know that you were a preschool teacher, so that brings us into a whole different topic. How are you able to balance, I mean, being a preschool teacher to being in shape? Because I mean, being a preschool teacher, you're gonna have to get up super early. I mean, I work nights, so I luckily I can sleep in, till around noon. But just having to get up early, I mean, how's that struggle been for you? Just being able to be a preschool teacher and still be in shape.
So I used to wake up at 6:30 every day. Now I've pushed it to 6:45, which doesn't seem super early. It's almost 7, like it's doable, but I work 9 hours. I'm at my job for 9 hours and then right from work I go right to the gym for 2 hours. And then I get home and it's 8 o'clock. So I'm eating, watching TV, and going to sleep because I have to wake up again. So for me, it's like sometimes I miss out, like in the summers especially. My boyfriend works from home, so he's like, "Oh, we're gonna go to Pier 13," and I can't go because I'm at work or I'm at the gym or I'm sleeping. But I mean, I try not to let it get me down. I try to go out as much as possible, but if I'm tired, I'm tired. Like it'll still be there tomorrow.
I have way too many friends that are also either preschool teachers or kindergarten teachers, and they are just I'm you're gonna listen to this, some of these preschool teachers, but you are lame. Okay, let's be honest. You don't go out. I totally understand why, but yeah, and thankfully you actually get up at like 6:30 or 6:45, because we have some people that are just crazy enough. They're like, yeah, I get up at like 4, and then I like go and like do my cardio like before. And I even told when that a lot of those are the computers, and then I say to that like sometimes I work from 4 p.m. to midnight. That's my normal shift, and sometimes I might go to 1, but I'm usually going to bed around like 3 or 4 in the morning. So I'm going to bed by the time some of these people are getting up, and I'm just like, that's just, I mean, that is just insane. And that's such a struggle though too. I mean, especially I'm one of those people where I could never work out after my job, so I always have to get the workout in before that, because afterwards I'm so spent where I'm just like, yeah, and let's face it, I'm not gonna go to the gym at 1 a.m. and be like, oh hey, I'm gonna get a great workout in. Yeah, I have so much. I'm so full of intensity and determination. Yeah, so yeah, it's one of those things where you just have to find, and like you said, just the determination, the work ethic to just find those times to be able to get that workout in. I mean, and that's
And
just what,
workout,
yeah, and that's just so
workout
inspiring.
is essential.
Yeah. Well, and for like for me to keep my mental sanity, it's a very essential thing to have. Like if I didn't
Yeah.
have it, I'd go crazy. Yeah. I totally
There are
understand
days
that.
where I'm like, oh, one scoop is I think
Mhm.
we're gonna do two. We're
Yep.
just gonna add that in there.
And one of the things that I love to talk about with teachers is because you get to deal with these kids, and there is an obesity crisis going on, and I mean it's been getting slowly worse and worse. But how important is it for you to, and how much motivation do you take into it, knowing that you can set a positive example just for these young kids? I mean, let's face it, they're a little too young to comprehend really what's going on, but you can still get them some positive influence into maybe just helping them get more exercise or get more play, just so that they can get those little healthy habits early on, so that they can maybe avoid the obesity crisis later on in life.
So my class, when we go outside, I run around with them because they love when we run. They think we're like aliens or robots or something. They think we're like another being because they don't know that we have dads. They don't know that we have families. Like when they see us out, they're like, "You go here?" I'm like, "Yeah, this is Target. Like I'm allowed to be
I
here."
used to
But
think that all the time too.
it's true. But like, so I just run around with them all day outside. So we'll be outside for an hour and I just run laps or I play tag with them or I chase them and pick them up. Like I do my best to just keep them running. And then inside the classroom, I mean, their parents give them snacks, they give them food that they shouldn't have, but for the most part, our daycare gives out like fruits, vegetables, healthier things. And I know a lot of the kids in my class, because of me, are always going, "You can't have sugar. Sugar's bad for you." Because I'm constantly saying it to like my coworkers who are asking me for help. So they hear me and they're like, "You can't have sugar. Don't eat sugar. Miss Krista says not to eat sugar." So, so they're going home and telling their parents I'm teaching them not to
Uh,
eat sugar.
well, that's awesome. Well, I always say in a good form of punishment, instead of, disciplining the kids, you just take away their food that their parents give them, then you eat it in front of them. So then they're, let's face it, that would really, really help. No, I always joke. I always joke around with my teacher friends about ways to do stuff like that. And I got to say, like, I had a day off 2 days ago where I didn't have to edit a podcast and I had to work, at 4. So I had plenty of time where I decided to go to the zoo because I hadn't been to the zoo in like years. And I just thought it would be fun. Unfortunately, it was the little kid holiday. It was the little kid field trip day where I felt like such a creeper because it was all these little kids and just all these moms with kids. And I was like, okay, I just had my hands in my pockets the entire time. And I was like, I'm not even gonna, if these kids walk up to me, I was like, if a kid's falling, I am not picking that kid up. I am not gonna get accused of anything. I was like, I am not getting me too'd right now or whatever like that when this is at the zoo here. So like, yeah, it was bad, but it was a lot, but yeah, like those little kids. Yeah. Some of those things that they say, I was like, God, I wish I had that freedom to just say kind of whatever I wanted at that age.
They
Yeah.
don't care what comes out of their mouth. I'm like, oh gosh. And sometimes it's hurtful. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh.
One of those kids, we were at the Jaguar exhibit, and one of the kids, I heard him say, "Look, a zebra," and I was like,
No. Who is your teacher?
Yeah, I always say, if you ever want to feel good about yourself, just educate some little kids on stuff, like stuff that they don't know, and then you'll always feel smarter and you'll be like, wow, I'm actually really, really good. But yeah, that's and again, yeah, being a preschool teacher, being a teacher is one of those big unsung things. So thank you for what you're doing, because well, I already know that, like, talking to my friends, it's like, well, what do you make or whatever like that, and then they just tell me, and I'm just like, oh my God, Jesus. But yeah, that's a whole different thing that we could get into where I'm just like, yeah, that's amazing. But yeah, again, yeah, being a teacher, it's definitely one of those unsung things that's just so awesome. So thanks for what you're doing. But one of the questions I said that I like to ask 2 questions all my health and fitness guests. So the other question is, one of the things that really is a multi-million-dollar idea that a lot of people just I cannot shout about more is that when you do get into shape, sometimes your clothing options can be limited. Guys have their own clothing difficulties that happen when they get into shape, but women have a lot more specifically. Like I always like to say, if you have big, broad shoulders, dresses aren't your best friend. Jeans are another thing that we hear of all the time, where if you have a big lower body and a small waist, jeans are not built for that. So they can be very, very hard. What are some ways that you have found that you're able to compensate for the fact that your clothing options can be limited?
I buy stretchy jeans from Hollister. They have the best selection of jeggings ever. They are so stretchy. And I have a problem with tank tops because my traps are so big that everything.
That you have guys coming up to you at bars and saying nice traps.
Traps are usually tighter, so I try to buy things that are like adjustable just because it's easier for me. But finding clothes that fit it's like a constant struggle, because like you used to cry when you were too fat for things. Now you're like, I can't even find a pair of jeans because my butt's too big, my legs are too big, but my waist is too small. And people are like, just get a belt. I'm like, no, belts are annoying. Like, you can't sit comfortably in a belt. And if anyone says that they can, they are a bold-faced liar, because you cannot sit nicely in a belt. It doesn't work.
I can totally agree with that myself. I have to wear a belt for work, and trying to sit down. Yeah, you're like, you always just have a little bit of the fat roll like coming up, and you're like, oh God.
Yeah, right.
It's like, I'm not fat. Like, believe me, it may look like I am, but when I stand up, yeah, and me too, even more. Cause like being 6'3", I have a really big I have like a really long, just like upper body where it's like when I sit down, like everything just moves all the way down to the very bottom. And I'm like, no, it's not like that. So yeah, again, I've had 2 actually fashion people come on the show, and I told them, I said, like, hey, I have a good idea for you guys. Start making clothes for, fit people, because it's a big market that's growing, but they haven't gotten back to me on anything yet. So again, if you're listening to those 2 guys that I had on there, definitely get on it. But also, you mentioned that you have a boyfriend. So anyone that's in a relationship or is, married, I always love to ask these 2 questions to them. So how did you and your boyfriend meet?
Are you ready for this one? This one's a good one.
At the gym?
No. The girl that my ex-boyfriend was cheating on me with is his cousin. So I met him through her.
So it's like an Alabama kind of thing.
So she's cousins with my boyfriend, and that's how I met him, through her.
Oh, wow. Yeah, well, that's definitely taking, when life gives you lemons, you definitely made lemonade out of that. So yeah. That and that's awesome. Yeah, that's one of the best, relationship stories that I've heard on this podcast. And believe me, I've heard a few. So yeah, that's a good one. But where did you guys go for your first date?
We went out for her birthday and she kind of like set it up. We were
Oh.
supposed to meet. So, but when I showed up, I thought he was dating his other cousin. I didn't know that he was related to her. So I was like kind of like a little rude to him because I'm like, she told me that we were like being set up for a date and he brings his girlfriend. Like, that's ridiculous. But it was his cousin. So
Yeah.
we just went to Hoboken. We went to like a bunch of bars. And it happened to be when I think McGregor was fighting.
Oh,
So
yep.
he was like specifically going out to see the fight and then didn't get to because I was there. So he was like more interested in hanging out with me than
Aww.
the fight.
Cue the awe music that I'll probably have playing in the background or something like that. Yeah. No,
At
yeah.
least that's what he tells me. He could be
That's
lying.
yeah, take it with a grain of salt when he tells you about. If he tell you that like during it, then yeah, I believe. But afterwards, take it with a grain of salt. Believe me, I've told a few bold-faced lies to a couple of women. Let's be completely honest. But yeah, and that's just so great. And again, I always love to ask those questions. Just the heartless, the hopeless romantic, I should say, in and of myself, likes to come out every once in a while. So yeah, and that's so great. But now we go to our audience favorite and my personal favorite part of the questionnaire, or I mean the podcast, a little questionnaire where we're going to ask Krista here about a dozen or so questions that we ask all of our health and fitness guests, and we're going to see how her answers stack up to everyone else that we've had on the show. So for our first question, what is your go-to workout song at the moment?
Oh, so I'm really into like EDM. So I listen to like a lot of Slander or a lot of Marshmello, stuff like that. So I would have to say probably Slander's Love Again remix.
Mhm.
I don't know if anybody knows that song, but it's pretty good. I like it.
That's so awesome. And I always say, for me personally, like I gotta have my old school '80s cheesy music, just the cheesiest music you can ever taste. Like the old Rocky IV soundtrack is like I gotta play like one song from that just because it's the cheesiest thing ever. But I also have problems. Like I have a gym at home, which is nice. No, when I say a gym, it's not really like a gym. It's just a couple barbells, a couple of workout machines. I mean, it's rudimentary. It's enough to get a pump in basically if you need it. So I spend like 75% of my workouts there. But when I go to a normal gym, I'm one of those guys where I gotta wait for the beat to drop. And now you listening to EDM, I don't know if you deal with the same problem, but like I'll be doing like a lat pull down, and I'll be like this for like 30 seconds, and I've had guys come up to me and be like, "Hey, Judy, you all right? Did you like pull out your back or something?" I'm just like, nope, just waiting for the beat to drop. So yeah, I'm known throughout my gym now as the guy that waits for the beat to drop. And people have been told, they're like, oh, you don't even have to go up to that guy. Like he's fine. He's just waiting for his beat to drop. So
He's fine.
he's fine. Yeah. So like I've done squats before. I'm just like this for like 45 seconds, just like waiting for the beat to drop, and then I finally get to. So yeah, I am known throughout my gym as that guy. But yeah, it's definitely hey, I'd rather be known from that than known by the way some other people are known in the gym. So you know what, I'll take it.
I'll
But
take
now,
the
out
beat.
of all the celebrities on the planet, if you could work out with any celebrity, who would it be?
Oh, like fitness celebrity or just anyone?
It could be anyone. Yeah.
I'm gonna have to go with David Beckham.
David Beckham. Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, David Beckham. Yeah. Well, thank you for not saying Dwayne the Rock. Yeah. Thank you for not saying Dwayne the Rock Johnson. Excuse
Oh
me.
no, no, no.
Because Dwayne the Rock Johnson is 90% of our answers that we've had, and you're going to be like our 150th health and fitness guest when this gets published. So like, yeah, literally like 130 or so. I've been like Dwayne the Rock. It got to a point where I was going to say, other than Dwayne the Rock Johnson, if you could work out with any celebrity, who would
I
it
mean,
be?
he's pretty jacked,
Yeah.
so.
I know. Well, yeah, and he's actually like big too, because one of the things that we hear all the time is people will either say, like either like a Mark Wahlberg too, or like a Tom Cruise, and it's like people don't realize those guys are like 5'4" if like you meet him in person. But like Dwayne the
Yeah.
Rock Johnson is actually like 6'3", so he's like my height, so he's actually like a beast. So
Yeah, he's
yeah,
a big man.
I looked at some of his workouts and I was like, yeah, he's ridiculous. Like he eats like 10 pounds of
Have
asparagus or whatever
donuts.
like that. Yeah,
Have you ever seen his diet? It's
yeah.
like straight up donuts, sushi. His sushi is like 4 families worth of sushi.
Mm-hmm. I was like, geez, there are people starving in the third world, and this guy's eating 10 people's worth of food, for every meal. But yeah, I mean, and his thing is so amazing. But now, what is one item that you always need to have in your fridge?
One item that I always have to have in my fridge probably is wine.
Okay. Oh, I was getting nervous there because you started with a W, and I was like, if she says water, I swear to God, like
No,
I've had some of those answers
no
where I was like,
water.
really, you're gonna go with water? Really?
No,
Yeah.
gotta
What?
be wine.
I do have to give my little water thing. So I am in Bloomington, Minnesota, and we have been voted the last 2 years the best water in the country. Like I don't know how they judge it. So and it's true because I go to other towns and I try to drink from like their like well water or whatever they have, and it's just it's so gross compared to ours. But yeah, ours is like I don't know what, but like you cannot taste like anything in it. Like it's just pure, just cold. But yeah, don't ever get me started on well water because that stuff tastes like blood, and then you're just like gross. Yeah, I don't like that stuff. Yeah, you can tell that I'm meant for hosting a podcast because I can just not shut up. So yeah, that's just totally my thing. But yeah, wine is. What's your favorite type of flavor of wine?
I like sangria and I like white sangria. I'm a white girl. I do not like red wine. It tastes like butter.
I got too used to it from church though too, going up and drinking the red wine. So it got to a point where, yeah, where I just got way too used to it yet too. But then wine, I'm gonna be honest, I'm not a wine person just because I try to portray that tough guy image as much as I can. So, I gotta have my liquor. But I'll drink wine. If it's just a bunch around a lot of people that I trust, I'll be like, okay, you're never gonna tell anyone this, right? That I drank all this wine with you. But
But you
then
can have like sangria that has like rum in it
that's
or
true.
vodka in it. You could spice it up.
Well, believe it or not, I do not mix any of my I do it straight. All my stuff.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, that's intense.
Well, yeah, because here's the thing though. Like I'm one of those people where it's like if I know that I want to, and I only do this when it's like my birthday or like 4th of July, or like any like important days. So probably like a handful of times a year. Where if I know, I'm one of those people where I'm just like, you know what, I just want to just get drunk as quick as possible, just so that I don't have to like deal with all this stuff. So I'll just do like 3 or 4 just straight shots, and then I'll be feeling fine. Then I'll do a couple more later, and then I'll be good. So yeah, don't have
Oh,
to
all right.
chase it. Yeah, I
So
went.
uh, you're not. You're right. Get to the point kind of
Oh yeah,
drink.
get to the point. I mean, it's like let's none of this pussyfooting around here. I mean, it's like let's just get to it. And plus, I went to Mankato, so it's known throughout the Midwest as one of the big party schools. So everyone always says, yeah, you can tell this guy went to Mankato because he just does everything straight. So yeah, that's definitely my own party style. But going back to the questionnaire, out of all your followers that you have on Instagram, what do you think is one thing that people would be surprised to find out about you if they met you in person?
So everyone thinks that I'm like really tall for some
Mhm.
reason, but I'm only 5'4".
Yeah.
So that's probably something they'd be like, "Oh, you're a lot shorter in person."
hmm Yeah, I was. Yeah, that's definitely one thing that we get a lot too. So even yesterday, I had a girl who competed. She did a a figure competition, and she was 4'10", and I could not even tell. Like from looking at some of her photos, I was like, you have the best angle guy around because it looked like you were like 5'9" or something like that. She's like, oh no, I'm 4'10". And then I'm like, okay. And then she like stood up and like she could barely take up like the camera. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, that's true. Yeah, I could see that now. But yeah, that's just always so fascinating because, and another thing too, that always when we talked about, like how people, just think like, oh, some of these girls, they look like men or they're just like, it's gross, whatever. I always say, how can you say that when me being 6'3", if I walk up and I stand next to most of these people, like I can pet them on the head basically because I'm just so much taller than them. It's like, how are you intimidated by that? It's like,
Okay.
yeah, it's definitely ridiculous. But yeah, that's definitely one thing. And I'd also say, I'd like to add too, being a preschool teacher, I don't think that many people would have guessed too. So that's definitely one thing that I think would be great as well. But now, what is one thing, like if someone came up to you and said, you know what, Krista, we made a choice. You can change one thing about the whole health and fitness industry, and everyone would go along with it. What would be one thing that you would like to see changed about the health and fitness industry?
I'm gonna go with honestly, I'm gonna go with the stigma that you mentioned that we're just, you pick it up and you're gonna get jacked. It's not gonna happen. Also, that people think that you have to give up everything just to be in this little niche. I don't think you need to do that.
Well, one of the things too that I hear all the time though too is that oh, these people are so selfish. Like all they do is they care about themselves and stuff like that. And it's like, and I always say that I was like, this is the one thing that's keeping these people from becoming the next mass murderer, basically, because like they need to get like their energy out. I don't say that. I mean that for me, it's like I would probably go postal after a while, where I would just be like, okay, I need to do something. But yeah, it's. I mean, they're just bettering themselves, and that's one thing that I hear all the time too. It's like, oh, they just must be so selfish because they like give up on their friends and they don't really like hang out with people. So it's like honestly, doing some of the stuff that a lot of these friends do, it's not, it's fun to
But
do
like,
every once in a while, but yeah.
why does it matter if I don't want to sit on the couch and
Yeah.
watch like, Game of Thrones for 4 hours? I'm just gonna go to the gym instead.
Well,
Why is that?
I would like to do both, but let's be honest, but
True, true. I'm
Yep.
struggling to catch up.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So now I got to ask, because you did just mention it. It also has the next part of the next part of the questionnaire, which is the fun part. What was the last TV show that you binge watched?
Um, to finish, I watched some werewolf show, honestly. I can't remember the name of it, but it was on Netflix.
Teen Wolf?
Yeah, they were like they turned into werewolves and vampires. I think it's Hemlock Grove.
Oh, yeah. So you're one of
And
those people that likes those vampire and werewolf shows,
I'm such a sucker for it. If it's done well, I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, all right. If it's cheesy graphics and stuff like that, then I'm like, eh. But
I'm not gonna lie. I watched True Blood. I watched most of it, like the entire series, and I thought it was all right.
I
Yeah.
didn't like it. I stopped watching it after like 2 seasons.
I'm
I
an
was like,
Anna Camp fan. She was the girl in Pitch Perfect that played the blonde. So
I,
let's be honest. She carried it for most of me. So like she was one
yeah.
of the main reasons why I kept watching it. But yeah, let's be honest. Yeah, I didn't really like the plot too much, but I was like, yeah, it's Anna Camp, so what are you gonna do? Like, I'll watch the whole damn thing. I really don't care. But now, what is your favorite TV show of all time?
TV show, Bob's Burgers.
That is a good one. That is one that we hear
Love
all.
burgers.
Can I be completely honest? I have never seen Bob's Burgers, but that has been one that we've heard all the
What?
time. Never seen it.
You gotta watch it. It's so
I
funny.
know I definitely need to watch it, but for me, I mean, I basically it's a tie for three. Like I can't name one, so it's either South Park, The Office, or Friends. Like I'm the most basic person ever when it comes to those. That's one of those where if either three of them come on, I'm dropping whatever I'm doing and I'm watching them. But now everyone has one. What is a guilty pleasure movie that you enjoy?
Oh, I love the Titanic.
I'm not gonna lie. Like I'm actually like so I'm a business major, but I got a history minor, and I would have been a history major, but I didn't want to become a teacher. No offense, but I that's the reason why I didn't become a history major, because that's like one of the main things that you can basically only do from it, unless like
Right.
I would get like an archaeology thing, which was another thing that I was fascinated by. But like the Titanic, this is actually really weird because like the last week or so I've been like really researching it because I got kind of into it, like the actual stories and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
yeah, the movie, I'll admit it, it's pretty good, and I've watched it.
Tearjerker.
I've watched it, a few dozen times, so yeah, it's let's be honest. I always like to say, that scene that you probably know what I'm talking about, where he's painting her. That was the first time I saw something that, and I was about 10 years old, and that changed my life forever. Where I was like, okay, that's what it looks like. So yeah, that was a very informative scene for me in my young years. So yeah, but yeah, that is definitely a good movie, and that's one of those movies where if it's on TV, like I said, I'll definitely watch it. But for me, my ultimate guilty pleasure movie, and all of my guy friends, close your ears, you'll never hear me admit this in person, Princess Bride.
Oh, that is a good one. That's a
Yep.
good one too.
Yep. I'll never admit it in person. Any of my guy friends out there listening, but Princess Bride, yes, one of those movies. Stop what I'm doing and I'll listen to it. But now our two final questions of the questioner. So, what is your favorite fashion trend of all time and least favorite fashion trend of all time?
Favorite fashion trend is definitely crop sweatshirts.
Mhm.
And least favorite, I'm gonna have to go with these pants that have like cuts on the sides of them
Yep.
all the way up. You cannot wear underwear with them. And what is the point of the pants? There's like no material. The only thing it's covering is like your inner thigh. That's it. I
Yeah.
don't like. I think they're heinous. They're hard.
That's what those definitely are things that I've seen too, or like like those cut up jeans, those ripped jeans. Yeah, I just look at that and I'm like, okay, I know it's like a fashion trend, but I was like, yeah, it's like yeah, you can't really do anything with it. But for me, I mean, being in Minnesota, flannel is going to be probably your best friend because just especially during the winter. I mean, now it's getting warmer, so you're not going to be wearing flannel as much. But also, my least favorite, my dad ruined this in the late '90s, just looking at photos, fanny packs. Now
Oh,
don't
I
get me
love my
wrong.
baby back.
Don't get me wrong. I always say this. Women can rock a fanny pack, and I'm 100% cool with that because it's that's stuff more meant for. But guys, I'm talking about like dads rocking the fanny pack, where you're just like, have you given up on life? Like, what are you doing? Like, and I see just some old photos of my dad, and I'm just like, oh my god, I can't believe you did that. And it's just. Yeah, it's one of those things where when I see that and I'm just like, if I can do anything with this podcast, if I can stop the spread of male fanny packs, I've signed up for the course. That's what I'm willing to do. But now our last question of the questionnaire: if you could go back in time and talk to the 18-year-old version of yourself, what would be the best piece of advice you would give her?
Stop dating the people that you are dating. My track history with men is garbage. Garbage. Sorry if they ever hear this.
Take notes, current boyfriend.
So sorry. My taste and my friends. I've picked some pretty
Mhm.
crappy friends.
Yeah.
So I would tell them myself to really look for quality people over quantity.
That's why I didn't start dating until I was in college. But actually, the real answer to that is just because, yeah, I wasn't. Yeah. Yep. So yeah, that's a whole thing in and of myself where I was just like, yep. I wasn't really bachelor worthy when I was in high school. I was a little too focused on other things like sports and stuff like that. I didn't really have that much free time. But yeah, college is when I really started. But yeah, again, and the biggest piece of advice, I would give myself would be just, you don't have to be a people pleaser. You don't have to please everyone. Like that's what I was kind of a little bit back in the day where I wanted to, make everyone happy and just realize not everyone's gonna get your vibe. So just it's all right to not have everyone like you. So that's just definitely one thing that I would say to myself. And now the two final questions that I love to ask before we wrap things up. So if we were to talk to you a year from now, where would you like to be at in your life? I mean, do you have any plans of competing? What are your goals that you like fitness wise or goals career wise? Where would you like to be at a year from now?
In a year, so I have no interest in competing.
Mhm.
It's just not something
Yep.
that I really have ever been interested in. But I would like to be a school psychologist by then because that's what I was going to school for. And I would love to, I'm actually sponsored by One Up Nutrition, but I would also like to start my own kind of fitness,
Mhm.
either clothing or workout guides or something like that. It's definitely fitness focused. I want to do like half and half. I don't want to give up fitness, but I also, need something to pay my bills. So,
Yeah, and that's awesome. And if you do launch something like that, definitely let us know, and I'd be more than happy to give you a shout out. Now, lastly, is there anyone that you'd like to give a shout out to?
um, shout out to my boyfriend because he is the best person ever. He's so supportive. And my best friend Jewel, who's always there for me, even though she's a vegan.
How do you deal with that? How are you still friends with her?
Because she's such a kind person. Like she's genuinely telling me things that she wants to better the world. It's not just she wants her opinion pushed on you.
Oh yeah,
She
yeah.
genuinely
Okay, yeah.
like
See, yeah,
cares.
yeah, yeah. Okay, so she's one of the good vegans. Then I'll say
Yeah.
that. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
she'll push, but like
yeah.
she's only pushing because that's
Mhm.
something she's passionate about.
Yeah,
So you can't discredit her passion.
I know. I've dealt with a couple of vegans in my life where I'm just like, if only cannibalism was allowed, I could eat you then, and then that would be the ultimate sign of just, of just being like, yeah, okay, I'm not. But yeah, and I have met some good vegans too, where they're just like, hey, you might want to watch that, and I'm just like, yeah, thanks for the advice, but I'll enjoy my hamburger. It's like, I even tell them, I was like, have you ever had a hamburger? Like, I was like, because if you had a hamburger, I don't think you would ever become a vegan. But yeah, I know, and we've had some vegan bodybuilders on here, and just listening to those people talk, it's like, how are you able to find those alternatives? I mean, it's so interesting. But again, you guys, we cannot thank Krista enough for coming on the podcast. I mean, you were an awesome guest. I mean, I love having people come on and share their stories. And everyone, go and give her a follow to her Instagram page down below. I'll leave a link to it. And we cannot thank you enough. And lastly, I always like to ask, all of the health and fitness guests for the last question. If you were walking down the street and someone came up to you and just said, like, wow, you look amazing. I want to really get in shape and, adapt a healthy and fit lifestyle. What would be the best piece of advice that you would give them just to be able to get started in their journey?
Just go out and do it.
Yeah.
Don't think about it. Don't hesitate. Don't listen to anything anyone else says. Start it because you can keep saying, oh, I want, I want, I want. But if you're not going to go out there and do it, it's never going to happen. And no one else is going to do it for you. So you have to really be committed.
I couldn't agree more. And I always say the most difficult step is the first step, but once you get that done, it's a lot easier to just get things, and just realize too, it's not going to happen overnight like we talked about before. It's going to be something that's going to take months upon months, but once you really start to feel it, I mean, nothing, it's just so positive. And so again, you guys, we cannot thank Krista enough for coming on the show. I mean, we really, really appreciate it. And if you have any questions that you'd like to ask her, I mean, your Instagram's down below. Definitely shoot her a message. I bet she'd be more than willing to help you out with any questions that you ask. And again, we cannot thank you enough for coming on the show. I mean, it was great talking to you. And this is Ryan Johnson, DD on the spot, signing out. Have a great day, everyone.